President Business is gonna end the world? But he's such a good guy. And Octan, they make good stuff. Music, dairy products, coffee, TV shows, surveillance systems, all history books, voting machines. Wait a minute.
One of the problems, not specifically on this issue, just in general, let's put it this way: money trumps peace sometimes.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of Why They Lie. If you haven't seen part 1, you need to stop the video now, go back and watch it before you come to this video. Okay, it will make more sense to you and you'll understand where we're coming from. And to address an issue before we get started of where we're coming from, a lot of you, we've kind of looked at the feedback, are saying, well, you had me and I was following you until you brought the Bible into this, or you said the word scripture, then you lost me, and you kind of start backing up and you're a little apprehensive. We understand that, and we want to let you know that we are not just religious nutcases here or Bible thumpers that are trying to make the world fit our biblical view. For our whole lives, we've made the Bible fit the worldview, and it wasn't until some miraculous events took place that totally changed our lives. I've shared one of those events that happened 10 years ago in a video called Heartbreak and Suicidal Thoughts. You can watch that and see what happened that kind of changed the way I look at God. And I already knew that evolution was a hoax and could understand that, but there was something different. When you start experiencing things that show you that the world is lying to you about who God is and how much He loves us and how forgiving He is and all that, once you start seeing that, you're like, okay, if they're lying to me about creation and God, what else are they hiding? And something inside of every one of us, or most of us, is telling us that something is off. We're kind of waking up to the evilness and the corruption. But we weren't raised in the church. We don't come from that type of a background where we force our beliefs on anybody. And in reality, we're not allowed to teach what we believe. If I tried to teach what I believe in school, I would get fired rather quickly. Everyone who's a believer knows that. It's a lot better than it used to be. We were burned for trying to teach what people now think is a fairy tale, and it's illegal in many countries, and it's not because it's a fairy tale. But the rulers of this world, they know what would happen if everyone knew what the world is really made like and how it was shaped and that it was designed and all of that. So we're going to get into the why. It's about to get really crazy. I don't want to scare you off if you're afraid of the Bible or it rubs you the wrong way. I don't apologize. I just want you to understand that we're coming from an area where our view of the world has changed. And it's not really just to make it match the Bible. There's a lot of crazy, really super awesome miracles that happened and miracles that happened back to back that set us where we are. I will share those eventually. I think they need to be shared. It's been on my heart to share them because it really is awesome. And it proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are something special and that we are loved. Okay, but to switch gears, talk about the evilness of this world. Here's a man that you need to know about. I will leave the interview in the description. If you don't want to sit through it, because it's pretty painful to watch, it's really sad. There's a guy named Ronald Bernard, and if you're a truther, you've probably heard of him. And he was one of those who made it really, really high up on the pyramid. His goal was to make it to the top. He really didn't have a conscience, and he explained that, how he really didn't have a conscience, and he kind of would do things to make his way to the top. He would destroy businesses and hear stories about, the people that he destroyed the business of to kind of make financial gains would kill themselves because they couldn't support their family or whatnot. And it didn't matter because he was one of the elites, and you kind of just put your heart in a freezer, he said. And he would partake, he would get invited to these satanic rituals and these organizations. They would invite him in, these people, and to them he said Lucifer and the devil and all that stuff is real, and they worship him, and they do things. And he thought it was all fun and games, and they would serve liquor and do all these things. It was entertainment. But eventually it got really, really deep, and they wanted him, as he got higher up, to partake in something that has to do with children, and that is child sacrifices in particular. And that's where he drew the line, because he had kids of his own. He started withdrawing from this. His conscience actually kicked in, and it changed him, because he witnessed something that would scar hopefully any one of you. And I know you might think the Bible's a fairy tale, but to the ones that rule this world, and he said there's about 8,500 people or so, and he's pretty good with math, so he's probably right, that rule this world. And they don't care about you at all whatsoever. And in order to keep you under control, you have to believe a certain way. Okay? And it'll make sense when we're done with this journey. Hopefully we'll get pretty far on part 2. But it's a rabbit hole that gets deeper and deeper. Okay? I'm just telling you, trying to prepare you. It gets really deep. But your journey with how you see the world started with basically how you see creation. And that's with really good models and pictures. You got hands-on. You were exposed to these things at an early age. You were taught about them. You understood exactly where you were because of the imagery you saw. You're the third little planet from the sun. You have to really understand that they're all spherical. You could see them with a telescope. We can see them. And we are one of those planets. We're just like those spheres that you see in the sky. It makes perfect sense. Everything's jiving. Everything's going good. We don't ask any questions. And we have proof. Lots of solid proof. Especially the most solid proof comes from the better models that they make. When they can just show them to you and the models get better and the pictures get better, well, they try to get better. But when you're asleep, you don't notice that they're just throwing out anything. And it's when you finally wake up that you realize, holy crap, I've been looking at cartoons and thinking that's where I lived. And it's really crazy. We were looking at stuff with our peripheral vision and didn't even know it. But here's some of the sloppy work they do, and they have to draw these and piece these together from imagery taken high up, and it's basically artwork. And that's why we have global continent change instead of global climate change. We weren't warned about that, but a few years later, the United States is really big now, and we weren't aware of that. But that's what happens when you live on a cartoon ball, and your reality is painted in. And I'm going to take you to the very first time we saw Earth from space. And we thought we saw Earth from space. It was very mesmerizing. The whole world was captivated. There was a space race going on, people. And the goal was to show you what Earth looks like and prove that Christopher Columbus, our hero who destroyed the Native Americans and all of that, was correct, that the Earth was round. He didn't fall off the edge. That's the part that gets ingrained in our minds, that there's some edge that water's falling off of. And he didn't fall off that edge. He went in a circle around this globe, and that's what it looks like. But sadly, this is not the globe Earth. This is just looking through a circular window like the one you see on the right, and they put a little insert at the bottom to represent the Terminator line. They were caught doing that. That video evidence is out there. I'm not going to go in depth on that. You can research that yourself. But looking at this picture and asking for wisdom, sometimes things are shown to you. And this little picture here of Earth where the clouds take up the entire Earth, and especially over here, kind of crazy. Looked familiar when I was looking at the Rob Skiba video where he made a box appear around the Earth by adjusting the levels in a picture similar to this one. So I took the picture from the Apollo 11 spacecraft window and I shrunk it down. It's an exact match. Okay, you can't tell me which one of these Earths is the real Earth. Okay, it's very deceptive, but they cut and pasted it in there, and that was the first time we saw Earth. We had to see it that way. There's nothing left to see on this round ball Earth, and this isn't a deception that started in the 1900s or the 1800s or the 1500s. This is something that goes beyond that. You have to understand how the powers of darkness work, and I know biblical scriptures kind of scares a lot of you away, so I'm not going to read a prophecy from the Bible. Okay, I'm actually going to read something here in just a little bit that blew my mind, and it has to do with the heliocentric model, and it was part of a plan that's thousands of years old. And here you have the people that came up with this model. Here's Copernicus. We're told these people are super geniuses and super smart. There were no IQ tests. Here he is back when Copernicus had a perm. He's one of the first people credited for creating this model. They were all Freemasons, similar to the evolutionists. And they always had their little compass tool, all their little Freemason tools. I'm guessing since the Earth is spherical, having the compass, you can draw circles, and you could make the globe pretty easy with those tools. So there he is drawing his first globe. And he got his hair straightened for this particular picture. You kind of wonder, were these people even real? Or did they just throw them into our history books? So they didn't have cameras back then. You can just make up anything. But Copernicus here didn't even have a telescope. Pretty much just went and looked at the stars, figured out the Earth is round from looking at the stars, watching the sun go down. Pretty easy, pretty cut and dry. But the prophecy here that blew my mind, because I did not know there was a heliocentric model prophecy, happened in the book of Enoch, which is not in the Bible. It was taken out of the Bible at the exact time that this guy was coming up with the heliocentric model. And it all makes sense when you hear this prophecy. Okay? Because the book of Enoch, if you're not familiar with it, actually tells you how the stars work, how the seasons work, how the moon and the sun work, how all these things work. And there is a prophecy that happens after it explains all of this. It says it tells them to keep these understandings of how they work. But then it says this, and many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks. Okay, the chief stars. This is talking about the planets. And it says, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them, because remember, stars are for signs and for seasons. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, which is us, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them. As in, we think the stars up above are just distant suns light years away. That's what we think they are. Okay? And it says, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods, and evil shall be multiplied upon them. Okay? Crazy fact. All of the planets are named after gods, except for Earth. Holy cow, we've literally done exactly what that prophecy said. We do not understand the stars at all. We think that the sun is a star, okay? We think that the stars are just distant suns. We have lost our understanding. We've been under a delusion, okay? And God has allowed it to happen. It says in 2 Thessalonians in the Bible that he's going to allow that delusion to happen so that the people who love truth won't be deceived. Okay? So love truth, look for truth. I know it's easy to get turned off by this movement and think it's a bunch of religious people. Okay, and here I am throwing out some stuff from the book of Enoch, which was removed from the Bible, but it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls as part of the Bible thousands of years ago. Okay? So it was with the Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls. My wife's bought that so I can actually read those texts, which is pretty cool. Look forward to that. But it's kind of crazy. These are some of the things you figure out once you're trying to understand why are they lying to us about the earth? Why is it so important? What's so significant about this lie? But it has to be a part of their equation to control the world. You have to lie to the world about what it is. Okay? So the lie and the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper the more you dig. Okay, so you look into this and you get a general understanding of the flat earth model, and you think, okay, it's got some holes in it or whatever. I don't buy into a particular model just yet. I don't want to be deceived again, and I know there's some fake flat earth organizations, and I'm pretty sure they could be putting out some fake maps, but there's a lot of different ideas of what it looks like. Some say it looks like the United Nations flag, which makes a lot of sense, because the United Nations formed after the Antarctic Treaty and all that, and the fake space race. Okay, but the space race was never really a race to the moon. It was actually a race to prove the ball Earth. And we always thought, most of us who understand, hopefully most of you understand, the moon landings were faked. Okay, if not, we've got some videos to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. But the moon landings were faked. Okay, and there was no real race to the moon whatsoever. And all of the world powers are in on it. Okay, the elites, the ones that all are part of the Antarctic Treaty. And that's where the rabbit hole starts getting really deep, is in Antarctica and what's beyond Antarctica, and why all of the world powers agreed to share that stretch of land. Okay, they all did at the exact same time. It has to do with this man here, Admiral Byrd. He played a big part in that. Okay, so this happened at the exact same time, around 1958, was right after the Antarctic Treaty, is when NASA formed and the space races started getting underway, and everyone was guarding Antarctica, because there's something special about Antarctica that we're going to find out in part 3. So stay tuned. We hope we haven't scared too many of you away. It's about to make a lot more sense. There is so much to cover with this topic, and we really thank you guys for spreading truth, being kind, asking questions, understanding that what other people have experienced is different than what you have experienced, and their worldview is based on their upbringing, their background, and we all have different minds, so we need to work together. Don't be mean to people who believe in the globe. If I have insulted anyone who believes in the globe in any way, I apologize. It was not intentional, and especially, people like NASA. I am aware that there are tons of great scientists. Not everyone at NASA is evil. Okay, there are really good scientists that work there, really good artists, and every space program has many of good scientists. And we're not going to go far out and say that there are no satellites and everything like that. We have a playlist that you can check out to see how they get satellites up there and how they stay up there for a while until they come back down to Earth, eventually crashing down sometimes. But there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of answers out there, so we appreciate you guys being patient. It's a long journey. It's not simple to undo a lot of the damage that's been done, and many people will say that we are an example of a failed education system, and I am thankful that it did not succeed in my case, and you will be too if it fails you as well, and I hope it does. Okay, and I mean that in the best way possible. But we love you guys. Hopefully we'll see you around. If not, it's been fun. Thanks for stopping by. God bless.